Where are you? What are you doing? Buddy, no. Buddy, come here. Hi, it's Jessi. Welcome to another turning where I sometimes talk about books. Today is part 2 of my Words of Radiance reading diary. Rhythm of War reading diary. Buddy, your back's in the camera. It looks awkward. Buddy, come here. There we go. Welcome to part 2 of my Rhythm of War reading diary, where I give you my thoughts as a first-time reader of the Stormlight archive. If you haven't watched up to this point, maybe get caught up. All right, let you know what I think when I've read a bit. Okay, drinking some tea. If you want to know what it is, it's Kusmi tea, Prince Vladimir. Whatever. Not important. I just finished chapter 21, so I think that's 2 chapters that I've read. Anyway, just finished chapter 21, so I think that's 2 chapters that I've read, and I'm trying to think of any of my thoughts. So let's start with the more recent stuff first, besides my obvious love of Adolin. The stuff with him and Dalinar is super interesting. I am incredibly frustrated that him learning that Dalinar killed his mom happened off page. I'm just going to continue to be salty about all the stuff that happened in that time jump. But the relationship between Adolin and Dalinar is just absolutely fascinating. Like, I don't know, I think it's exciting. I think there's something so interesting. And I think part of my problem with Dalinar is that he is so single-minded. He sees everything so black and white. And so he's giving this whole speech to Adolin about Taravangian and about ends justifying means and how you can't be like Taravangian. I literally sent a tweet out that was like, Dalinar, you're still thinking things black and white if you think you're either like Taravangian or you're not, And then Adolin's literal thoughts are, isn't there a third option? I can be Adolin. Not Taravangian, not Dalinar. I can be Adolin. And I think that's good. I really, really, really hope Adolin never becomes Radiant. I think there's part of him that wants to, but I also think a big part of the last book was that arc of him coming to accept that he isn't and that he can still help when he's not. And so I really hope he never becomes Radiant. Other thoughts, he and Kaladin are fantastic together. I love him and the way he just, I don't know, he just has a way of talking to people that it's not like Syl's overbearing, I'm going to make you happy, even if you don't want to be. He just kind of accepts Kaladin as what Kaladin is, and I think that's really delightful. And was it a Shallan perspective? Oh, right. So we had the whole situation with Shallan trying to figure out which of the Lightweavers to bring with her. And Vale overruling the vote. And I'm not sure what I think about that. A friend of mine who happens to be about where I am in the books said that she's worried Vale's the mole. That Vale is keeping secrets from Shallan and Radiant and is the one working for the Ghostbloods. Which is so fascinating because that is certainly something Vale would do. But I don't know. I trust Vale. I just don't like that. And I do think this is going to send Shallan fracturing again, but I do think that might be what she needs to get to the root of whatever is going on with Formless. And of course, it doesn't matter because last minute change, which is exactly what they expected to happen. They were like, even if we don't take the Ghostblood mole with us, they're going to make sure she ends up on the trip anyway. So I think that's interesting because there was a last minute change. Speaking of last minute changes, Adolin's outfits, he should have gone with the yellow coat. Anyway, do we know who Book 5's perspective is? Because part of me kind of wants it to be Adolin, but I kind of don't think we'd get anything new out of Adolin that we didn't get out of Kaladin and Dalinar. Got Shallan. Who have we had? Wait, we've had Kaladin, Shallan, Dalinar. This one's Navani, although we haven't had any flashbacks. I mean, Navani was our perspective for the prologue, but we haven't had any flashbacks from her perspective. Maybe that's part of why the pacing of this book seems so off. There's nothing to break it up. Interesting. Nobody get any flashbacks in this one? Because we, possibly Seth, although we got a little bit of that in book 1. Yasna, but again, I feel like any of the Colons were not getting anything new out of them. So, like, I don't know, maybe Yasna would have a different perspective. Or Renarin, Adolin. Those are really the main ones that it could be. I don't know. Moash? Give me the Moash. Anyway, I'll let you know when I've read a little more. Not the best look, not the best lighting. I should be going to bed, but I need to update you so I can read on my train ride in. I finished chapter 25. 4 chapters. It wasn't nothing. I feel like I'm going to be flying through this because I read 3 of those 4 chapters on my commute home, and I stopped early, so I didn't go too far. Okay, let's talk about Shallan first, and then Kaladin. Yeah, let's talk about Shallan. I think Shallan is falling apart. She is trying to pretend like she isn't, but she is. And that's fine, because I think she needs to, because there's clearly a part of herself she needs to confront and is afraid to. And maybe falling apart is the way she confronts that. So that's good. I'm not opposed to that. It's interesting. One, I think it's the relationship between Shallan, Radiant, and Veil is so fascinating because it's almost sisterly. Like, the way Veil and Radiant worked together to bring Shallan out of herself feels very sisterly. It feels like, oh, I'm going to tease you and make fun of you until you respond because you're stuck in this melancholy. And I think that's kind of sweet, but also kind of weird. And it's definitely this, I mean, it's showing more how they don't, I don't know how to put into words what I'm trying to say, is that they work towards the same purpose, which is taking care of Shallan. I mean, ultimately Shallan wants that too, but also, like, they all have their, it's very, very strange. Also, Radiant hinted at there is something she has done to go against Veil and Shallan's wishes. Like, Shallan makes some comment about, like, Veil going against what they wanted, but it's the only time it's happened. It's no big deal. And Radiant was like, ugh. So that's interesting. And I'm trying to remember. I'm finding a lot of this book is me going, did I forget that happened, or did it happen in the time jump? And I don't know if I had read this sooner after Oathbringer, if this wouldn't be a problem, or if this is like a problem with Sanderson having done the time jump at all, or if it's an issue with, I don't know. I don't know how to solve that, but that is definitely an issue I'm having. Anyway, I don't know if I know what Radiant did. I don't think so, because this whole pact between them, whatever they call it, it happened during the time jump. So somewhere in there, Radiant did something, and I assume we'll find out what that is later. I'm wondering what it could be. Maybe I feel like if it was anything with Dalinar, we would know about it. Like, I don't think Dalinar could hide that. Maybe Yasna, maybe something with Yasna. That seems possible. So maybe Radiant, I don't know. And that's intriguing. But I do love when Shallan just really absorbs into the Spren, and I love that we're getting her sketches of the Spren again because they're amazing. I like listening to the audiobook while I read, but I'm really glad that I have this to read because, well, I've seen this picture of the cryptics before. I think I Googled them. But the other ones, which are right here, what are these guys? Sport? Mistbren. The Mistbren? Creepy. The idea that they would, like, they just have these faces, these mask faces, is kind of creepy. I love Adolin, and I love his relationship with Maya. I am intrigued. I've been intrigued by that since it was revealed. And I don't know if we've really, I mean, the idea, the implication we're getting from all this Spren is that you're wasting your time. And what we get from all the people is, oh, isn't that cute that you talk to your shard blade? So, I don't know where that's going to go, but I like it. Again, I don't want him to become Radiant. So the idea of him bonding a friend to become radiant, I don't love. But I don't know. I like there being something there. Kaladin. I didn't think the surgery, him being a surgeon thing was going to last. I don't know if I said that explicitly, but like, I know this isn't what he wants. And I'm glad that it's giving him a sense of purpose. Sometimes you just need a change of pace. I know for me teaching, I am exhausted right now. And in a way I never was during the pandemic teaching virtually. Teaching virtually was exhausting in a very different way because not to get into it too much, but like when you're teaching, it's the same thing when you're acting on a stage or any sort of interaction where you're giving and taking. There is an interaction there. And I, as a teacher, put a lot of energy into teaching. And I get a lot of energy back from my students. You can't do that through the screen. So that was exhausting, but I never really got upset. I never really wanted to give. This year, I have been so exhausted. And not that I have depression like Kaladin does, but I know that feeling. And so when he talks about how going into being a surgeon, he felt revitalized, that's kind of how I feel about the idea of transferring to work at a different school or more and more contemplating getting out of teaching, even though it's something I'm super passionate about and I love and I think I'm doing good and I think I'm doing the right thing. I'm just exhausted. So I get that and I get what he's coming from. But also this whole thing with him helping this guy, the uncle, whatever his name was, Nolan. Oh, I forgot about that. Shallan told Adolin about robbing Yasna. Norrell. Anyway, with Norrell, are we gonna get like psychology Kaladin? I'm kind of loving the idea of that arc for him. Also bless Teft. What a sweet boy. Sweet old man. Anyway, that's where I'm at. Like I said, I at the rate I'm reading, theoretically could update you two times per day at this rate. We'll see. I'm getting more into it. Feels like there's a plot now, at least, with the going to see the honor sprint. It still feels like Kaladin doesn't really have a plot, but we'll get there. I didn't even look to see where this part ends at this point. Well, it's chunky. But I don't know, probably by the end of the week, for sure. I'm not going to finish this before Jordan comes, though, am I? Well, anyway, I will update you soon. Alright, I have finished chapter 28. I don't have a lot of thoughts, but I want to update you now so I can get some theories down before they're confirmed, although probably won't be confirmed for a while. I think I said in my last clip, I'm happy it feels like there's actually a plot with this whole expedition to meet the honors brand. We had a big Shallan chapter that I don't have a lot of thoughts on besides what I've already said, which is that she is going to fall apart. Radiant definitely hiding something. Few too many hints at the fact that Radiant would never lie to believe that Radiant would actually never lie. So I am intrigued to figure out what that might be that Radiant is hiding. I love the cryptic spread. They are absolutely my favorite. I get where they'd be overwhelming, but I also think they're delightful. And that's really it. I mean, there's more of like Adolin being sweet and a good boyfriend or good husband and all of that. But I think that's really the most of it. And then we get the Navani stuff, and I think that's where things get really interesting. I think her musings on Taravangian and Yasna are interesting. I love Yasna. I love the relationship between Navani and Yasna because I think it's complicated and it's difficult. But I also think like Navani really understands Yasna. Not necessarily understands her in a way of like she can get what Yasna feels or things like that, but understands her in a way of like she understands what she needs and she understands what Yasna means. Like she never doubts that Yasna loves her. Or I don't know, I'm reading between the lines a lot, but their relationship's really cute. But span read. The call is coming from within the house. Thoughts. So they kind of come to the conclusion that it must be a spren, which is kind of what I had thought in the first place. And I kind of agreed with that, or a radiant. Kind of working with their spren, which immediately makes me think Renarin. That is like my immediate thought, is that it's Renarin, just off the bat. Or Renarin's spren, who we don't really know yet. Gliss, could be Gliss. But the intent behind like that wanting to free the spren feels like it could be an honor spren thing, so it could be maybe one of the wind runners. Maybe. I'm trying to think who else maybe that would fall into, but those are kind of what come to mind immediately. I'm going to be a little annoyed if it's somebody we don't know yet, just because then it feels like it's really out of left field. There is possibility it's Relaine, and possibility, didn't Brock's daughter stay? Maybe her, because of the way the Horn Eaters feel about spren. Maybe they're a little uncomfortable, and so his daughter bonded a spren might be more likely to help in that. So those are kind of my thoughts. Right now it definitely goes Renarin, Horn Eater, honor spren, Relaine, and those middle three could somehow all be connected. It could be Horn Eater and honor spren, Relaine and honor spren. So that's my thoughts. Also, was there a Kaladin perspective I didn't talk about? No, I don't think so. That's it. We'll see tomorrow, probably, how I feel as things progress. It definitely already feels like things are moving. So it was just part 1 that was slow, but also, again, that was like 300 pages. Let's update quickly before I bring kids in my room. I am midway through a chapter right now, which I don't usually like to do, but I want to update before I get too far, because I'm reading a lot today because it's a field trip day, so there's like 4 kids here. I'm halfway through chapter 34. Lots of Shallan stuff. Kaladin quickly, briefly, seems to be doing well. Therapy. Turns out it helps. Group therapy is the solution to depression. Why is somebody screaming? Navani. Was there anything about Navani I wanted to say? Oh, geez, it's been a bit. I don't think there's anything specific about Navani. We had a Venli. Yeah, we had a Venli perspective. That's neat. There was a lot of lore dumping in that, so I think it's interesting that listeners, Parshendi, singers are one surge. They're specialized. It's that, is it better to be really good at one thing or to diversify a little, is an interesting concept. And it's going to be intriguing to see where Venli falls on that, given that she is technically, that she's bonded to his friend, but also, I don't know, it'll be interesting. But Adolin, love Adolin. Adolin's a delight. Not really any deep thoughts about Adolin, but he's a delight. And I really wish, I don't know what to say about him and his relationship with Dalinar, because I get where he wants to prove himself to Dalinar, but also, like, what can you do? And he has such a flawed view of who Dalinar is. I don't know. But Shallan, girl is going through it, bless. But anyway, no, the main thing is this whole thing with the spy. I was taking notes on my hands on the train. So I think, Mraize slipped and mentioned the corrupted glory spren, but that doesn't feel like something he would do on accident, right? Like, so my guess is he's setting Beryl up. There is a small part of me that thinks it's possible, they're not likely, that he actually somehow has information that there actually are corrupted glory spren somewhere near him, near Shallan, but, like, that doesn't seem likely. I think more likely he is somehow setting Beryl up. Either the actual spy overheard the conversations. I should have locked my door. Lovely. What was I at? Yeah, so I think it's possible the actual spy overheard something. I also think it's possible whoever his spy was mentioned it and he intentionally said a different kind of spread, either because he picked up on what it was or just to throw off Shallan. But I'm increasingly thinking that somehow Shallan herself is the spy. I'm leaning towards Formless. You know, I know my friend had that theory about Vale. It's possible Vale did it, revealed, you know, X, Y, Z, you know, we're telling each person this, and for some reason, I mean, Beryl already looks the guiltiest, right? She was thrown in at the end, plus it's easy for Shallan to it's easier for Shallan to accept that the newer member of the Lightweavers is the spy, right? So it's the easy one to frame. So I think it's very possible that either Vale or I think Formless informed him about what was happening. And at this point, both Vale and Radiant are reluctant to believe it. So that's interesting. I also think Formless, I know in the last video I mentioned about like Formless might be who Vale really is, but I'm thinking it's the complete opposite. Shallan is Shallan. But now she is so convinced she's hidden who she really is from everybody around her that she is creating Formless to be the real her. And I think that's kind of what's happening, is that this isn't the real her, but it's somebody she's creating to be the real her. And they're trying, and Vale and Radiant are kind of trying to stop that from happening. And they're trying, Lord, are they trying? And oh, Adolin's so sweet. He's trying so hard to help her. It's tough. She's going through it. She's really going through it right now. It's my girl. Anyway, I just wanted to get some theories down. Anything else? Nope, that's all I had written on my hands. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what these honors friend, what the move is. I don't think the letters are it. I get trying to just appeal. You gotta appeal to their sense of honor. And how do you appeal to them that fighting Odium is the honorable thing to do? Adolin's got his work cut out for him, but I think he's gonna figure it out. Because I just think he's gonna figure it out. I don't know. That's that. Okay, I gotta be quiet. My partner's still asleep. I am halfway through chapter 36. Adolin just turned himself in. I don't really have time to talk about that. The other thing I wanted to briefly mention, that I had made a note to talk about was that, Adolin taking care of Maya is definitely an interesting parallel to Kaladin trying to figure out how to help the people that have, PTSD, depression, and things. I think that's an interesting parallel. And that the epigraphs here, I think they're Sazed talking to Wit, and that's very interesting, but I don't have time to unpack that. What I really need to talk about is pattern, because I have to update you quickly while I check my email, because I slept in this morning because I was up way too late last night thinking of theories for pattern. Because the thing is, like, it's so hard for me to believe that pattern would actually betray Shallan. Like, that's just unthinkable to me. One, because I love Pattern. He is my favorite character in this entire series, bar none. But also because if he betrays Shallan, wouldn't that break their bond and therefore kill him? Right? I'm not off my rocker with that. So I've been thinking of theories. So my initial theory was somehow Pattern wasn't Shallan's bond friend. And I'm going to talk you through this theory just so I don't sound like an entirely crazy person. But I've since talked myself out of it. So Shallan, one of her big things is that she can't soul cast. She's really good at the illusions and the light weaving, but she can't soul cast. So is it possible she's not actually a light weaver, but instead whatever radiant it would be that has light weaving and something other than soul casting as her thing. Like, would that be a possibility? And if that's the case, Pattern wouldn't be her bond spren. But I kind of dismiss this mostly because if that's the case, wouldn't her spren have revealed itself? Like, she's on like the second or well, if she's a light weaver, she's on like the second or third tier, and that doesn't make any sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I dismiss that. And so the thing that comes to it is that Pattern is doing this, but somehow doesn't feel like he's betraying Shallan. I tried to think of a way Pattern didn't do this, and it just, nothing could come to mind. So the two options is either it comes back to Shallan is betraying herself in some way, like she is the mole, in some sense, and so she has ordered Pattern to do this, or Pattern thinks that he is serving Shallan by serving Mraize. One way or the other. But I can't think of any way Pattern didn't contact Mraize. Now, as far as the Pattern is lying to Shallan thing, Vale tested him by, like, making up a false memory of Shallan's. But it's also possible that, like, Pattern is also just messed up and can't distinctly remember. And so I don't think that's necessarily definitive proof that Pattern is lying. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's really it. I mean, briefly, Adolin turning himself in. I'm kind of annoyed I didn't think of this because this seems like the obvious thing. Like, you commit a crime, you have to pay for that, you know? Like, if you're talking in terms of honor, if you have done something, you should repay that, you know, debt in some way. And so it makes sense. But it seems like the obvious twist here is that they consider him not directly responsible, so they won't want to. I mean, I think what he is betting on is that the honors Bren are going to say, well, you can't bear this punishment because you did not do this crime. And therefore he's like, well, if I'm not responsible, then none of the currently living humans are responsible. And therefore, this thing you're doing is wrong. It's definitely an interesting strategy. We'll see how that works out for him. Okay, new theory. What if Pattern was just curious? Didn't actually use the cube because they were like fingerprints, but like not actually moved? Maybe Pattern was just curious and wanted to look at it. This is thin. Very thin. But maybe. I just finished chapter 39. Chapter 39, whatever. I promise I'm not trying to update you literally every chapter, but things keep happening. Thiru is under attack. Whatever. I did finish, when I finished chapter 36, the only comment I have to say, there was like one page left. I could have literally read it and then updated you. But anyway, was that I really wish Adolin was doing this because he believed that they needed the honor sprint because he thought it was the right thing, rather than to prove something to his dad. Hopefully one day Adolin will get over his daddy issues. Today is not that day. I finally got to remember to put sticky notes in my bag so I can write down my notes on something other than my hands. Not much other than that until we find out this stuff. I mean, the attack starts, whatever. Then we find out that the person putting the spam working for the spread is Dabbit. My immediate thought was, this seems like proof that it was an honor spread, and then we very quickly find out it's the sibling who is still alive, and now my theory is that Dabbit is going to become another bondsmith. I don't know if it's possible to have more than one bondsmith, but I would really like there to be more than one bondsmith, because Dalinar is insufferable. That's it, really. And Dabbit would be such an interesting possibility. And that's really it. Kaladin fighting through. It's interesting. I wonder if this is going to be a sign that I wonder why he didn't. Is it just supposed to be because why he didn't collapse like the other Radiants? Was it a case of he's just special? He's the protagonist. Or if it's something actual, there's actually concrete reason for that. But my money at this point is just he's the protagonist. Also, really, him trying to go fight. It's really quite alarming how debilitating that is for him. I mean, it makes sense, but it's quite, because it's not just in like a stressful situation or an unusual. This is just, I mean, I guess it is unusual that they're being attacked at Irithiru, and maybe that's it. But like, whoo boy. And I don't know how I feel about Liren being the one to talk him away from that. I don't like Liren. Anyway, I'm going to try my dangdest not to update you until I actually finish this part, because I have notes now. I can take little notes and just do it that way. So I'm going to read some more. Let me update before we get into the interludes. Gosh, I'm going to start at the end and complain about Liren, who drives me up a wall. But let me start with the beginning, because I had a note that I've been like meaning to talk about and keep forgetting to. So let me start by talking about the epigraphs. So the epigraphs have been somebody talking to the Wanderer, who I assume is Hoid/Wit, and I am like fairly certain it is Sazed, which I think I briefly mentioned this morning. Is this the third clip I'm filming today? And the reason for that is that one of these epigraphs from a while ago, but he mentioned that he is both preservation and ruin, which I think is pretty clearly, chapter 36. I found this difficult to do on an intrinsic level, as although I'm neither ruin nor preservation, they made me. So like, it says it talking to Hoid, who it seems could have become a god. So like, there's the shards, which are like fundamental elements of the world, but then gods can use the shards to become more powerful, embody the shards. So like, Sazed is now a god in that world because he embodies preservation and ruin. And the Lord Ruler had embodied, I think, just ruin, if I'm remembering correctly, right? So it seems like Hoid had an opportunity to become something like that and chose not to. Fascinating. Here's my thing, though. I like it when that kind of stuff is in the epigraphs. I like it to be something kind of separate that I can speculate about. I think I've finally figured out what bothers me about the Cosmere, and it's that as soon as the characters start talking about it in the book, it really ruins my immersion. It takes me out of the book, really bothers me. So I think that's that. Let me see if any of these notes are ones I need to talk about. We'll come to Kaladin and Syl at the end. We'll mention that later. Let me talk. I think that's really it. Yeah. I really admire Navani. I think she's really doing the right thing. She's trying really hard, and she's clearly conflicted about it. I mean, all of these characters are so conflicted. I just want somebody that just like, it's exhausting. But she's really doing what she thinks is best and trying her hardest. I mean, trying like heck to make sure everything is safe and doing what she can to preserve the largest portion of people. So I admire that. At one point in this, I was thinking about Venli and about how she seems to be embodying the benefits of both the humans and the Parshendi. I hate using the Parshendi, but like, I don't want to use listeners and singers because they're two different groups of the same. Anyway, the native Rosharans, because she is a listener, but she is willing to learn from humans and become more human. And I was thinking R'lain also falls into that. He's a listener, but he's been willing to become more human, whereas the singers are very set in their ways, very firm. And then I was like trying to think of an example of a character doing the opposite, a character that is human, but willing to learn from the listeners. And the one that came to mind was my boy Moash. So anyway, I don't have a lot of thoughts here, but I think there's a weird parallel there. But the implication seems to be, and I don't like this implication, but the implication seems to be that humans are good and right. And that's, I think, the thing that keeps coming back in this book to me, is that no matter what's going on, the implication always seems to be that humans are right and good and better. And I don't like it. Anyway, so let's talk about Kaladin and all of that. Starting with, oh, Syl, baby. Syl is going through it, and she is hiding that for Cal, and Cal isn't picking up on it. So there's this whole scene where, like, Cal is upset going through it. Syl also, it's when R'laine leaves, which is, like, heartbreaking. Like, heartbreaking. That's my boy. So R'laine leaves, and Syl is clearly struck by this. Is going through a whole, everybody leaves. Rock is gone. R'laine's leaving. You know, one day you, Kaladin, are going to die, and I will be alone again. And eventually I will be alone again, because she was before. And Kaladin just brushes it off. It doesn't brush it off, but he's like, Syl, this doesn't seem like you. And she's like, yep, you're right, I'm fine. And it's like, she's not allowed to have emotion. She's not allowed to be anything besides this cheery, happy, chipper, happy-go-lucky lady to cheer Kaladin up, and I hate it. But then we have Liren, Father of the Year. I don't swear on this channel, and I'm not about to swear, but I want you to know that I really, really want to, because saying screw you, Liren, doesn't quite seem to really be giving enough voice, enough firmness, enough vitriol to what I feel for Liren, because Kaladin's going through it. Kaladin's having a rough time, and he is trying, but he's considering fighting back, which I don't blame him. He wants to fight back. I get it. And I get where that's a complicated, nuanced, emotionally charged issue for Liren. I get that. But Liren, how dare you go to Kaladin and say, well, maybe you wouldn't have to deal with these problems that you have, the mental problems you have, if you had thought for a minute and hadn't fought back in your past. Like, Liren, first off, screw you. Second off, how dare you? Like, first off, Kaladin had depression as a child. Like, this was not like, oh, this just came up out of nowhere, a product of the war. But, like, I'm sorry, this man would still be traumatized. Like, you think he wouldn't feel trauma, like, being a surgeon? There's no way you think he wouldn't have felt some form of PTSD if he'd been a slave surgeon instead of a slave bridge carrier? Like, Liren, F you. Like, I've never liked him. I have never liked him. This is the first time that he's made me infuriated. And then to, like, really, Cal probably should not have fought. And I understand that he's fighting on lack of information. Probably shouldn't have attacked the guy, putting everybody in danger. But then again, Liren's guilt trip of, well, if you fight back, then they're gonna kill us all. Ugh, I can't stand this man. Like, every negative feeling I have for Dalinar is a flicker compared to Liren. All right, let's talk interludes. So we had fire first. Moash, my love. I don't think I have much to say. Oh yeah, Moash is to Odium what Dalinar is to Honor, but then I remembered that Odium tried this trick with Dalinar first, and it didn't take. Now he's gonna try it with Kaladin, which I also just don't see taking. I know Moash's whole thing is to push him to either unalive himself or to join Odium, and I think the reality of the situation is that Kaladin would sooner die than join Odium, so I don't think that's gonna work out too well for him. Then we had Lift, then Taravangian, right? I don't know that I had any notes about Lift. Did I? Oh, just about Marae's getting involved, because it was the whole thing with the green chicken chasing the red chicken, which his is obviously a parrot of some kind. I'm going to assume the red one is a cardinal, because I want to picture a little cardinal with lift, because why not? But then obviously by the end of it, it's pretty obvious it's Marae's. I'm just not sure. I don't know, it's interesting. And then we get, I don't know if this is something we already knew or maybe not, but that Taravangian made a deal with the Night Watcher, Night Mother of Skyrim, which is fascinating. It makes me think that's a theme between these interludes. It makes me really wonder if Moash also made a deal with the Night Mother. That's all I really can think, though. And that's really it. I don't know that I have, or the Night Watcher. I don't know that I really have any other thoughts about these interludes. I'm coming around on Lift. She's definitely a tragic figure. I think it's sad. I don't know. I can't comment on losing a parent at a young age and what that does to a person. And clearly that has impacted her heavily. But she just... we don't know how old she actually is because she kind of stopped aging for a while. But she strikes me as so immature. And in this series, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating for her to be like, I just want to play games and have fun when the world is literally ending. Like, I don't know. But also, Rock's son has a crush on her. Cute. Anyway, I think that's really it. Taravangian still gets on my nerves. Interesting that he's kind of having this epiphany. Also, I need me some Renarin, and I've already looked at, part 3 has some Renarin perspectives. I cannot wait for that, because I miss Renarin, and the fact that he seems to be kind of at the center of everything is certainly interesting. Anyway, that's my thoughts for this. Make sure you subscribe so you can see when I post the next one. Should be in 2 weeks. I love y'all. Bye.